Howdy y'all, Matt here. Today we're going to tackle two projects. One, making new feeders. These chick feeders are getting too small for all of our birds, and we're going to make a new watering system so that way they have continuous water. We don't have to worry about them running out. So hope you enjoy this process. Hope it helps you as you're preparing to raise your own chicks. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is set up our automatic waterer for the baby chicks. This is a kind of gravity controlled one, so when the bowl fills up with enough water, it pulls a plunger and stops the water flow. Now the nice thing about this is that it will keep itself full. It's also pretty shallow for your chicks to make sure that they don't drown in it. I got this at the local feed store. It's a pretty simple device. It just kind of comes together like that, and you adjust the level of the water by adjusting this screw or the nut on the stem there. So you do that, and then you have to have an adapter so that it can fit to the hose. So this comes, and then you got to buy some other pieces. The way I'm going to do this, because you'd think you just hang it with the hose, but the problem is the way the hose hangs, if they're stiff, it's going to hang it like that, and the water's just going to drain out. So what I'm going to use is little risers. It's PVC 1/2-inch risers. They're already threaded on the end. I'm going to thread that in, and then I've got some other pieces. Some of the things you're going to need to be able to do this, you need to make sure you've got all your fittings. I'm using brass 1/2-inch threaded fittings for the joints. You're going to need Teflon tape. You do not need Teflon tape inside here, the fitting that goes in there, because that has a rubber gasket in there, so it's going to seal itself automatically. And I'm using waterline Teflon tape, but I think just normal Teflon should be fine. Make sure you do that. Have a pair of pliers handy, so that way you can twist these pieces together and make sure you got a nice tight fit. Don't over tighten them, because you will, this is plastic, it's PVC. You can break that fairly easily. So yeah, we're gonna put all this together. Hopefully it works great. We'll see. Okay, so now we're inside the coop, and this is where we're going to drive these stakes in. I want it probably something like that. And what this will do is give me a pretty wide stance to hang from, and then that waterer goes in the middle in between, and I'm not blocking one side of it with one of these sticks. So I'll show you what it's going to look like after I hammer it in. The height that I'm hammering it in at is going to be determined by the length of this riser. So that needs to be a little bit off the ground, not too high, because they won't be able to get to it. You gotta see if those chicks can reach that. I don't know if they're going to be able to reach it. That is probably good right there. Okay, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and put this riser on the other side. Yep, so you take your Teflon, start it up on top, roll forward like that. I guess if you're looking at the fitting, you're going clockwise. All right, and that's gonna be screwed into this part here. And that is it. That's the whole setup there. And so I'm going to take some zip ties once I attach the hose, and I'm going to zip tie those on there, just about like that. And that'll keep that thing steady so it'll fill up. Okay, so I'm using a food grade hose. So this one is suitable to drink out of. And I don't know, I guess you probably don't have to use that. I just like those high standards. It's going to be a little bit more expensive, but you know you're not going to be leaching anything into it. So zip ties on. I'm not going to tighten them all the way until I get it right where I want it. Right now it's just going to kind of hang there. And we'll do, I think we're going to do 2 zip ties here. That should be plenty. And that's about where I want it, I think. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten it down. Now hopefully these guys aren't big enough to tilt it. Like if it ends up like way off side, you may end up, you know, overflowing it. So there we go. Now I'm gonna go crank on that water and we'll see what it looks like. I think I've got it adjusted a little bit too tight. Okay, so again, to adjust this thing, I'm gonna twist those nuts a little bit up like that. Let's see if that does it. There you go, see, it's right there. Okay, let's see if the chickies will drink out of it. One of the driving factors behind doing this setup here is right now I'm using a 1 gallon jug, and they are going through this thing so fast. They'll probably drain that 1 gallon jug in a manner of 6 hours, something like that. So they're going through a lot of water. And this over here is going to keep them watered. So that will refill by itself. So I don't ever have to worry about them running out of water. The thing I will say, don't rely on automatic waterers entirely. Have a backup, have some water available to them. I had a watering system that I had done for my turkeys out of a bucket, and what had happened, it created a vacuum in the bucket so they couldn't get water. And so you gotta make sure, these guys are very sensitive. You wanna make sure they have enough water, you wanna make sure they have clean water. That's the other thing I don't like about these guys, is that if you can see in there, that water tends to get really foul pretty quick. And so making sure they have nice clean water is a high value for us here. So this will be good. This will make sure they have an endless supply of good fresh water. And again, each day you're gonna need to clean that thing out, because I don't care what kind of system you have, you're gonna get feces and pine shavings and all sorts of other things in the water, so make sure you keep it clean. Okay, the second project we're gonna work on today is another feeding solution. Right now, we've got maybe a third to a half of the chicks that are down here trying to eat. If all of them were trying to eat at one time, that would be next to impossible. Now, I don't know that all of them would try and eat at the exact same time, but I wanna have a system that if they wanted to, they could. That's the other thing with raising meat chickens. You want to make sure they have good access to food and that they're not restricted in their feed. Now, you will feed restrict them from time to time depending on your goals. I'm going to have food accessible for them pretty much all the time. And so I want to make sure that they've got easy access to the food whenever they want it. So we're going to move from these little chick feeders that hold maybe 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds of feed to a big PVC feed trough that they'll be able to access. So that'll be the next thing we'll make. Okay, so I bought this 4-inch drain pipe. It's perforated, and I'm gonna use this to make the feed trough. My saw is down at the house that I'm building right now, so I'm gonna run down and get on my table saw to cut these things and get them ready for making and turning into a trough. I'm gonna cut out probably maybe a third of the piece of PVC to kind of leave an open trough, like a gutter, that the chickens can eat out of. So what I want to do is I want to set up my saw in such a way that when I run it along the stop, it's going to keep it nice and straight, and then I can rotate it and make the other cut. The other thing is, I don't want this saw blade up so high. I only need it showing enough to be able to cut through that PVC. So that's what I'm gonna do, is have it about there. Makes it a little safer for the cut. Also, when you're cutting, make sure that you've got eye protection of some sort that you can wear. So I'm gonna go ahead and set up the saw to be able to cut these pipes where I wanna cut them. And I'm gonna cut out the section that has the perforated pieces on it. So that way we leave a nice solid section to be able to hold the feed. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is I need to cut little half moons to fit in the ends of these, and I'll probably put at least one, maybe two in the center, so that way the feed does not spill out the end. So I'm gonna get some wood, get a pencil, trace around the inside, and then I'll cut that thing out. Okay, to cut these guys out, we're gonna need a jigsaw. That's what we're gonna use. Might need to be cleaned up a little bit around these edges, but that might look pretty good. Let's see. See if that fits in here. I think that'll work. Just gotta cut out 4 more. Okay. Now I'm going to drive some screws into here to make sure these are nice and secure. Okay, so I've gotten the trough built. Now, in hindsight, I think I would have gotten the higher, heavier duty PVC. This is the Schedule 20. I probably need the Schedule 40. As you can see, it's pretty flimsy. So I think I will use this, obviously, for the chicks. I don't want to waste the material. But I think for the other piece, I'll probably take the other piece back and then buy some of the heavier duty Schedule 40 stuff. It's crazy expensive. It's like $50 for one stick of 10-foot PVC, whereas this was like $24. So yeah, but it's worth it. I thought about it at the hardware store, but went with the thinner stuff. It'll work. It's just not going to last as long. All right, so this is a really quick and dirty feed trough. So I put feet on there to keep it from rolling when I set it on the ground. And then I put this on top, and this is hopefully gonna keep those chicks from actually getting their whole bodies in here and then fouling the food by pooping in it. We'll see. I don't know if that's gonna make it that much harder to fill with feed or not, but again, this is the first one, prototype. See what it looks like. I'll probably change the design a half dozen times before I land on one that I really like. We just put the feeder in here, and look at them, they're all lined up eating. Not all of them, but most of them. So that's all I was hoping for, is I'm hoping for enough space for everybody to be able to eat at one time. And I think right now that's what we've got. Okay, so I got the new feeder in, and it's 10 feet long. It's almost the length of the inside of here. I got their water set up. They've been using it. You can tell there's a little bit of detritus down at the bottom of the bowl. No leaks, so it looks like we're doing good.